Hello and welcome. You're watching NewsX and I'm Megha Sharma. Now, we have recently witnessed a spate of attacks against Hindus in Bangladesh who are practicing their religion in peace. Now, over the last few months, there have been countless temples that have been desecrated, idols have been defaced, houses that have been vandalized and Hindu devotees that have been assaulted. These atrocities against Hindus in Bangladesh are a cause of deep concern. However, rather than the tangible action that is being taken to curb these attacks, the Bangladeshi authorities are turning a blind eye. But that's not all. The major media publications across the world are also quiet. Meanwhile, there are 3 UK members of parliament that have raised concern over the attacks on the Hindu community in Bangladesh and the arrest of the religious leaders, calling the degree of escalation in the violence, quote unquote, deeply concerning. Bob Blackman, Preeti Patel and Barry Gardinger have called out the Yunus government for its negligence over curbing attacks and have appealed for urgent action. The US Congressman Brad Sherman too has expressed that he is outraged by the recent attacks against Bangladesh Hindus and has emphasized that Bangladesh's interim government has an absolute obligation to protect Hindus. Meanwhile, as tensions escalate, Bangladesh has summoned the Indian envoy in Dhaka to register its concerns about the vandalism and breach of security of its Assistant High Commission in Agartala in Tripura. India has reaffirmed that it remains interested in working with the government of Bangladesh to fulfill its shared aspirations for peace, security and development. Now, Muhammad Yunus is not been an elected leader. He has in fact been installed by the United States of America under the Biden administration. He still has not been able to call elections, although he had promised as soon as he came to power, in just a few weeks' time, elections will be held and reform will be the order of the day in Bangladesh. His first move is to kill Hindus is what Bangladesh has witnessed after the exile and the deportation of Sheikh Hasina, who was the Awami League leader and the former Prime Minister of Bangladesh. The Nobel Peace Laureate currently is mum on the genocide that is happening right under his nose. It is obvious that Bangladesh is provoking India. Nepal has done this before. Sri Lanka has also tried a similar trick. How should India respond? Is our quote unquote measured response being looked upon by Bangladesh as no response? Let's try to have this conversation. Ambassador Baswati Mukherjee, former diplomat, on the telecast with me. Thank you, ma'am, for joining me. And Ambassador Mukherjee, the fact that India in its diplomacy, whether it is with Russia, America, Sri Lanka or now Bangladesh, has been very measured and calculated in taking action, in taking steps. But do you think right now the measures that are being taken or the lack of response that is being witnessed from the Indian diplomacy, the government of India against Bangladesh, is something that needs to be improved upon?
First of all, Megha, it's an oxymoron if you say diplomacy is not measured. It has to be measured. That is what diplomacy is all about. Diplomacy is not about losing your temper and doing things at a tangent. Nor can it be said that the government of India has done nothing. The government of India is using open channels and back channels, as is the case when you have such a tricky situation when minorities are being singled out. What is important here, Megha, is to remember that now the attacks on minorities have become are targeting different kinds of minorities. For instance, the symbol of Bengal syncretic culture were the more than 1,500 Sufi shrines, of whom 350 have been attacked. There have been attacks on Ahmadiyas. There have been attacks on Buddhists. There have been attacks on, of course, we know about what happened to the ISKCON monk and Hindus. But these are attacks targeting different minorities, while efforts are being made to change Bangladesh's constitution and remove the word secular. It is also important to remember that Muhammad Yunus's 3 months are soon going to be over, after which he will be in an illegitimate position because the Bangladesh constitution has got no provision for him to continue beyond 3 months. In 3 months, was supposed to have organized, as you rightly pointed out, free and fair elections, which he has not done, and for which the BNP is now singling him out. And the BNP has also said that the free and fair elections must include the Awami League also. So under those circumstances, there are two kinds of actions being taken by the Indian government. One is back channels. One is what you think is a measured response, which indeed it is. And the third would be to approach the United Nations, where the Human Rights Council is going to meet in February, or to look at Mamata Banerjee's suggestion, which she made just yesterday, about a UN peacekeeping force in Bangladesh, which was immediately rejected by this so-called illegitimate, soon-to-be illegitimate regime in Bangladesh.
Yeah.
And I would also like to point out that we can't say that Sheikh Hasina was the former Prime Minister, because according to the Bangladesh Constitution, she is supposed to resign in a letter before she is called the former Prime Minister. She had no time to write that letter, and under those circumstances, we can't call her the former Prime Minister.
Okay, talking about the United Nations bodies, and let's take a look at what has happened to the United Nations bodies when it comes to the Ukraine and the Russia war, the peacekeeping agencies. We talk about Gaza and how there have been repeated attempts, resolutions that have been passed to stop the violence that is being perpetuated by Israel onto Gaza, or for that matter in Lebanon. Nothing really has made a difference. So it does not matter if there are hundreds and thousands of Gazans who are being killed, or on either side of the border, if the Israeli troops get killed or the Hezbollah terrorists are getting neutralized. It really does not concern United States of America. It does not really concern actually the United Nations or any of these international bodies that call themselves the custodians of the world. But Mukesh Tyagi, an important point raised by Ambassador Basuti Mukherjee, that you find this to be ironical that Mamata Banerjee, who leads the TMC, is talking about how there needs to be stringent action taken against the atrocities being meted out to Hindus in Bangladesh, and in contrast we see a less than enthusiastic response, almost a tepid response when it comes to the foreign ministry, when it comes to the government of India in calling out the Bangladeshi government. And in all practicality, Muhammad Yunus is a dictator, because under a dictatorship the word secularism is being proposed to be removed from the constitution. Under his dictatorship, it is Mujibur Rahman whose statue has been desecrated, pulled down, and he in fact has been called a dictator and not really the true liberator of Bangladesh. Under Muhammad Yunus is the Hindus that are being killed, they are being attacked, they are being put behind bars, the temples are being desecrated. How is it that the government of India is not taking strong action?
It's not. I think Ambassador Mukherjee had given a very interesting analysis that it is front and from the back, both sides. The diplomacy is very active. It's our adjoining neighboring state. We have to take many strategic, calibrated approach before we plunge into any severe action. But of course, I mean, there is a deafening silence by the international community. If you see, Megha, in 1971, when 2 million people were killed, in that process, till now, United Nations and United States, which is supposed to be the champion of human rights, has not declared till now it's a genocide. I mean, this kind of a selective international positioning has put Bangladesh in a pivotal position. There is a design, there is a deep state which is operating through ISI or through Jamaat-e-Islami, or through the student wing, which is trying to destabilize not only Bangladesh, but also trying to destabilize the northeastern states of India. And there must be some economic, maybe some ethnic issues, including the retaliatory position by Pakistan that 71 you took away Bangladesh, we will ensure that Bangladesh becomes hostile to you. And Sheikh Mujibur Rahman's statue was vandalized. Sheikh Hasina was exiled to India. She ran away. And in constitution, I mean, the difference between Pakistan constitution is it's an Islamic republic, and they openly call it a theocratic state. But Bangladesh, in Article 2A, they make it very with a great distinction, maybe some snatching some kind of a secularism element into it, saying that fine, it is an Islamic state, but we will give equal protection to Hindus, Sikhs, Muslims, and other communities which are in minorities. No wonder, despite all these things, there is no intervention, and the courts are not granting bail to monk. I mean, what kind of anarchy is happening in the judiciary in Bangladesh, and international community is keeping quiet? Maybe, and he is now, his, I think, date will come on sometimes in January or something like that. So for, I mean, just because his flag was higher, then maybe that haven't seen the real video footage. But I mean, you are charging him for sedition. You are not providing him lawyer support. If a lawyer comes forward, you brutally beat him up in the. So I mean, what is happening? I agree with you, Megha.
But then what is it that the government of India is doing? How are you going to safeguard the lives of Hindus, safeguard the very essence and the presence of ISKCON that is under threat right now? There have been more ISKCON priests that have been arrested. There has been talk in the parliament that ISKCON should be declared a fundamentalist religious organization, which is almost akin to a terrorist organization.
Megha, I agree with you. There is a need to escalate more action from India because it impacts us completely. And I certainly feel that Jaishankar, who is a very seasoned diplomat and an external affairs minister, they must be contemplating very serious action. And Prime Minister Modi is fully aware of the situation, but it takes some time. I think Ambassador Mukherjee will be able to highlight this issue much better, what kind of diplomatic initiatives can be taken. But Jaishankar ji said very categorically that our Indian High Commission there is monitoring the situation very carefully, and you will see to it. In near future, very solid action will be taken by the government. But right now, they are trying to evolve some diplomatic options, building up a pressure on Bangladesh, and I'm sure Mohammad Yunus government will go soon. As a matter of fact, I have got a little difference with Ambassador Mukherjee's opinion. There is no provision for interim government in constitution of Bangladesh. There is no provision. It is absolutely unconstitutional government which is there. I don't know where the 3 months tenure has come. He is known for as a bloodsucker by Sheikh Hasina. There is a direct enmity. There are a number of factors. Americans' deep state is involved in destabilizing. So I'm sure there are a lot of complexities involved into it. Maybe after President Trump comes over, then there will be, you will see to it, some radical and revolutionary changes in Bangladesh.
Are we at this point of time saying that the government of India is hinging all its bets on the president when he comes to power?
Not at all.
The Republican.
Not at all. But that,
no, because
that
I really don't think it's going to make a huge amount of difference. Maybe a statement here and there talking about how the atrocities of Hindus is deplorable. I don't think the Americans are going to do anything more than that. All right, Pathikrit, I'm going to come to you and let's hear it from you about the situation. Now, are we at this point of time, waiting on a ticking time bomb? Because there has been escalation after escalation. First, you see that during those violent protests that took place where Sheikh Hasina was exiled, Hindus were attacked, their homes were attacked, temples were desecrated, idols were destroyed. And it's not as if these atrocities have not been happening even during Sheikh Hasina's regime. They have been happening, but perhaps in lesser percentage. This has increased manifold, which brings the lens into the Bangladeshis Islamist movement that at this point of time is reigning supreme in the region. We have seen now that ISKCON is being targeted. We are seeing that the Hindu priest has been put behind bars. He's not even been provided a defense lawyer to fight the case, and which again puts him in prison indefinitely till the time he finds a lawyer to fight his case in the court of law. What are we at this point of time waiting that there is going to be escalation of tensions along the border as well?
So, Megha, first and foremost, I want to say this: we can have academic discussions for eternity, but the reality is that people are dying. The people are dying. Those people who are dying are the ones whom today's regime and the extremists in that regime do not consider them as Bangladeshis. They keep on telling them, get lost to India. That's the reality. People are dying. My only contention is this: I know that this situation was created by the deep state to provoke India so that we get into a conflict and we create a Ukraine-like of a situation. I understand that, but at the same time, the least we can do is to have a CAA 2.0 and allow those helpless Hindus to at least come to India, even if temporarily, and let's not leave them there for death, and we hope that we'll go to United Nations. The United Nations will not do anything. The United Nations is hand in glove with what is happening, and at the same time, the UN the West will keep on telling us that we don't want the West to interfere. We have been saying that we have our own sphere of influence, so they will tell us that it's your problem, you sort it out. The onus of saving those Hindus is on us, not on United Nations or America. That's one thing. But I understand it is not easy to take a decision. It is not easy to take action because there are a lot of eventualities at stake. And I think India also has to ensure that its own economic growth and security is not compromised. But there are 2-3 things I want to say. Number one, I am not a supporter of Mamata Banerjee, but let me tell you why she made that statement. One reason possible is because she understands the pulse of the people. There is tremendous level of anger right now in India because there is an apparent feeling that nothing has been done. I'm sure a lot of things is being done, but the communication from the government has to be far better than what it is right now. That is my only contention. Number two, yes, Bangladesh had tremendous opportunity to grow with us. We are not an enemy of Bangladesh, but current situation has completely changed the architecture of Bangladesh. Today, it is not a situation where some extremists are killing Hindus and the government will come and protect the government of Bangladesh. No, it's not so. The extremists are part of the government. They are doing it. So there's nobody they can go to. Now the thing is this. If we think that it is going to stop here, well, we are mistaken. Why? There are 3-4 things that is happening in Bangladesh. There are open calls being given for creation of a greater Bangladesh. So if the situation does not get contained right now, you would see it spreading in Assam, Tripura, West Bengal. Number two, they are giving open statements that we will choke the chicken corridor and make Seven Sisters part of Bangladesh. Do we realize what is happening over there? Number three, there is a threat, there is a warning that has been given by United Kingdom Intelligence Department agencies that there is a potential chance of a terror attack in Bangladesh. Now, this is the situation that the West has deliberately created so that it becomes like a Gaza of India. So if we do not do anything, I don't know what can be done. I am not getting into that thing. I am not saying go for military intervention. We have a very, very strong and a stable government in place. They can do what they want. But I'm saying if we do not do anything, tomorrow this has become a fertile ground for ISIS, Al-Qaeda and all kinds of organizations to create a ground for all things that they will do not on Bangladesh but on India. And last but not the least, whatever you do, I am not a supporter of UN peacekeeping force because if it comes, it will create another medium for the West to monitor us. But the only issue is this: whatever we do, please have daily briefings like the Russian foreign ministry has. Please talk to the people. Today, what is happening, why there is restlessness in India, because many have relatives also in Bangladesh, is because there is no communication coming.
Okay, yes.
That communication is important.
Yeah,
what you want to do, I don't want to get into that.
Yeah, Adit Kothari, yeah, you made your point. You made your point, Pathikrit. So, Adit, how, again, helplessness is the word that comes to my mind. Being an Indian and also a Hindu and also an individual who empathizes with the destruction that is taking place in Bangladesh, human rights that at this point of time are being trampled upon by these Islamists and fundamentalists that have been given a free rein under the Islamist government that has been formed, that is being led by Muhammad Yunus. Is the government of India also equally helpless in this matter, or are there back channels that are being utilized, and what is it that we can do that will allow to ensure that the safety of the people over there, the minorities, the Hindus, is safeguarded?
So I think one thing that the civil society can do is, sort of impose economic pressures on Bangladesh. By economic pressures, we mean there is a lot of cotton that is being exported from India into Bangladesh. that needs to be immediately, sort of diverted and deflected back to our industries, because it was at the cost of our own homegrown industries that Bangladesh was essentially perpetrated. They were basically platformed into this global domain of becoming this manufacturing powerhouse for textiles globally. We basically lobbied to ensure that UN recognizes the plight of Bangladesh and provides them a special status whereby Bangladeshi garments get a special place in the global market. So we need to take back control of that particular aspect, and we need to apply more economic pressures as a consequence. Power is definitely one of the issues. I'm led to believe that the Bangladeshi government has already started to liaise with the Indian government, saying that they do not want to buy all that power, but they want half the power of what has been, what has been signed from a treaty perspective. So that push and pull will continue, and that diplomatic channel from a back channel perspective, I'm pretty sure that is ongoing. But the other aspect which I do want to sort of highlight is this sort of marginalization of the minorities and the Hindus at large, or the Chakma Buddhists of Bangladesh at large. It's not something which is happening from the recent 3 months or the last 5 months. It's a systemic issue which has been going on since 1946, since the Noakhali riots, right into 1971, even post 1974. So there is, prior to 1974, there used to be something called the Enemies Property Act. When it was East Pakistan, that was basically converted to Vested Properties Act in 1974, which was predominantly designated to appropriate all Hindu lands who got displaced during the riots and the wars, and by any means the state would then become the sort of caretaker for that property. Now that's what it did. It actually propelled the goons and the sort of party workers of BNP and Awami League both to basically run ruckus against Hindus and incentivize their goons to basically act in a certain way whereby they can take over Hindu lands. And as a consequence, today there are almost 14 lakh Hindu families who have lost their lands in Bangladesh, out of which some of the prominent ones are also people like Dr. Amartya Sen, by the way. I think the Bangladeshi government knows about this, and they were deliberating on how they can return those lands back to them. But the reality is 26 lakh acres of land, of Hindu land, has been taken away by institutions in Bangladesh, and the direct beneficiaries are political workers, both BNP and the Awami League. I think BNP is 43% at 43%, and Awami League are beneficiaries to the extent of about 34%. So it's a generic problem. It's a party-wide problem. Yes, Awami League is lesser of the evil, which is why we chose to work with them, but they are evil nonetheless. There needs to be more cognizance taken into about this, and more work needs to be done about this particular subject, because Bangladesh in general is a blind spot, just not from a Western Hemisphere perspective, but even from an Indian perspective. We often talk about what happened in Pakistan during 1947, but very few times we get to hear about the sad stories that happened in 1947 from an East Pakistan perspective.
Yeah.
So that blind spot needs to be lifted, Megha.
Okay, all right. On that note, I'm out of time. I thank all of you for joining me on the telecast and sharing your views on this very sensitive subject. On that note, I slip into a short break. Thanks for watching NewsX.